Welcome to chapter 2. We're going to create the front-end plugin section here. As I mentioned earlier in this course that I have already created host and plugin modules, but in order to be fair, I'm going to go through file by file and I'm just going to be very focused on explaining what's going on here. And yeah, so I'm not gonna rewrite this all out because I assume you already know a lot of details. So the plugin itself is nothing more than a very simple white project. So I have created this very quickly, created a new React app with it. The app.css, I didn't touch it. App.tsx, I modified it to show this plugin page, which is a very simple React screen. So we keep a value, set a value, and when we have a value, we set the local storage for a selected color. And basically that's what it is. And I have installed this React color repository, which allows me to pick a color. So if I go to the plugin screen, you see this is a circle color, and when I choose one, it just reflects it here and I can see it. In terms of main.tsx, we don't touch it. We don't want to touch basically anything. Plugin is nothing special to that sense. This file is, I think, even unused. We can delete it and it's gonna work. Yeah. And the most important thing we have done is first in the expose.tsx, and second is we have a different plugin white configuration, which I'm gonna explain in a little bit. I'm gonna go, well, it's already created, so I'm gonna go create build, which I modified the default configuration to use the other one. In white or wheat, you can use as many configurations as you want. So yeah, I think we shouldn't delete the plugin because the title because actually it was used. Check out this one and come here and npm run build. We're just building it, building the project. And you see, instead of creating the dist, which is like an index.html or whatsoever, we have a plugin.iife or ife. And that's because we are using the plugin config, and I really don't like what I have done here. Therefore, I'm gonna go and call this build plugin, and then I'm gonna change the build to the original thing as it was. And I really suggest you do the same because you don't want to touch whatever it was there as default. So we are building it. Let me an index.html, which would serve from the assets. And if I go to dist folder serve, it should be like our standard project 3000 and works like nothing fancy about that. And then the other script, which is an npm, let's go back, npm run build plugin would treat that a little bit different, and instead of creating this index.html or whatsoever, it's going to create a single file which we will drop into the next project. Discussing the white config, this one is as is, but for the plugin, we want this JSX runtime to be classic. So the reason we are creating it this way, and we are just calling this a library. The name of the library is whatever, which will become the ife, like this one. And later on, we are just mentioning react.create element, react.fragment, and I think we are defining an object called process.env.nodeenv as production. The thing is with the define, we are adding a library called React color, right? And that's using the process.env because it's kind of a server-side render as well, but it's gonna break our plugin here because in our environment in the browser, this is not defined. So we are defining it kind of as default, so it's not gonna break that. And in order to make this run, this is a very important part, we are not including the React and React router into this build. And we are relying that React and React DOM is available on the host. And instead of importing them from like import React, we are just calling React dot create element instead. So later on, when we are using it, we should make sure the React object is available on the browser. So when I go and type in here React, I see there's not React is not defined, but in the host, if I go and type in React, it is an object, it's available. So instead of using a node package or ES import, we just globally, like 50 years ago, we are creating this React included. That's the very important part. Now we could definitely include the React and React router DOM. There is no arguing that, there is no problem with that. And actually we are excluding this like global, so React and React DOM as like this global package is available. This is the same thing with the React DOM. So if I add the React DOM here, should be like this. You see that's also available. And that way we are excluding it to be available in the plugin Iffy. And it's gonna be very weird if each plugin has its own React in there. Therefore, when we are building it, this file, in order to run anywhere, those two React and React DOM should be available. And if we go to the HTML5 example here, and I open it, I have created this plugin. And then in order to use it, I'm just including the plugin from like unpackage, and that makes them both available globally. And then I'm gonna add my plugin to the screen, and therefore it's gonna run right away. So we created the plugin which works in a React host project and also in a global any HTML any project, which if you add the React and React DOM in it. In fact, I think it's possible to build, and maybe even a good idea to have another build that includes the React and React DOM in it. And for the condition that we don't know that React is there or not. And it's more like you give like 4 or 5 different options for the clients who are using your code, and that's one thing. But this is one of the important and confusing things you need to remember regarding there. So I have already mentioned everything. So we're not using JSX, we are using create React element instead of directly importing React element from an R or something else. One more important thing here, which is a little bit different, is the exposed file, and this is the critical part of the plugin system. So when we are exposing our build process, we are not using our app.tsx or like main.tsx rather. Like this is not what we want. The app is already created by the host. And what we're gonna do is we instead would register like a route, like a page, which is a plugin page for us. And you can see it here. This is the plugin page. And we are also adding a hook. A hook is a system we have created that when an event happens, it will check if there is a callback for it and would call that. Now, in our host app, we will see later on in the next chapter that when when a BMI calculation happens, like an activity in the app. Let's go to the host for a real quick one, entering there. When on BMI calculated happens, we are going to check if there is a hook called on BMI calculated. And if that hook exists, we're going to call it with the value. And then the new value would be anything comes out from the plugin. So this hook is already created in the plugin code, and it's a function which gets a value. Let's say it's supposed to be an string, and then instead of like returning whatever it was the value, we check if there is a selected color, we'll return a span, and if not, no color selected. Therefore, we are modifying on BMI calculated hook to return a different thing. Now, if we just didn't provide this at all, the app would work as is. It would check for on BMI calculated, and there is not such thing. Therefore, it's not happening. Like nothing would happen. In the end, we need to have plugin registry, which is provided by the host, which we'll discuss later on. And we will register the plugin as my plugin with the register function. So the register function adds a cleanup and would unregister route if we deleted the plugin, and the routes will be going out from the app, like kind of a like use hook, use effect method, or use effect side effect, and then returning an unregistered event. Therefore, you see now when I add this plugin to the host, it fully becomes like working, which we need to discuss on the host project, that how does this work actually. Now I'm just gonna go and real quick delete this file from the host project, which we built. I rename it, and then I'm gonna refresh the page. You see the app works, but the menu is gone. And also if I come to the BMI and then calculate like 50, 69, you see everything is normal. There is no color and nothing. And if I just add this back to the public folder, it's not a part of the source code. So if I build this, put it on GitHub Actions, you write the plugin, drop the plugin, it's gonna work. And then again, this plugin comes up, and then I can select, for example, this red value. I go here, put 180, 60 kilos, and then the red becomes as the normal. That's all we had to discuss in terms of the plugin. So to recap is you need to register a route or multiple routes. Let's say 5 pages is available to this plugin. And then this is really host providing you what happens when you register. Should it show it in the sidebar? Should it not show it? Like, what does registering a route mean? A route is a feature, a route is a screen. And now here you see like a simple thing can become significantly complex in order to manage. And the issue is, if we didn't make this a way that works standalone, it would be very hard that we build this, go to the host, refresh, and then check if that it has been working. Now, in order to be fair, I want to go real quick to the plugin. I'm gonna change the label to 22. I'm gonna go and build it. Let's go to the plugin, npm run build plugin. And what happens is, like, the plugin is built. We don't have to really do anything on the host because it's not a part of a build process. We just drop this plugin and we have plugin page 222, and that's it. Like, the plugin says what is my name and what is the label in the routing system. Yeah, so that's like what it is about the entire plugin system. Just one thing also remember, you need to have this exposed, the library entry expose.tsx. You should not have a domain. You want to just expose the component itself. So when you are running the project as a plugin, everything starts from the exposed.tsx. Therefore, make sure if it requires provider context, everything needs to come from here. Now you could integrate this into the main, but I would rather kind of separate them. And if somebody wants to use the app standalone, just use it as a standalone. If somebody wants to use it as plugin, they use as plugin. These two are two separate things, two separate entry points, which may in the end use the same thing and go further. Yeah, so let's go a bit discuss about the contents of like theoretical things here. As a plugin, what things to consider, like the plugin project, not the whole thing, but plugin system. One thing is to run it normally as its own project. Don't make it in a way that depends to be running only on the host. It's going to be nightmare in the maintenance. We export different parts and we might be exporting it as plugin, as independent project, as multiple plugins. There is no issue in that. You can create multiple libraries, multiple white config files, and then create multiple plugins out of the same code base. Then we discussed already different builds, standalone, React, full content. We do not depend on any module such as module federation or webpack. As you have seen that we didn't use anything special, any npm package. I use a React color package though to show that an npm package will be built into the FE and it doesn't need to install anything on the host. Like the JavaScript file, all was written into a single project. Host API needs to be consistent, as we discussed. We will discuss the host API a little bit later on the host project, but host API is basically, if I want to recap, is this one, that we have a register and an API, which comes from the host, and this is the host API. It allows you to do certain things in the host. So you can register a route, you can unregister a route, you can register a hook, call a hook, and then this list might actually grow up God knows how much. Therefore, you need to be really ready for it. And another topic is testing and making the versions that plugin is compatible with host. Now, this is very simple example, and imagine like after 2-3 years and later there's like 10-15 versions of the host, 10-15 versions of the plugin. You need to kind of manage which plugin fits to which host, especially as you have seen the React and React DOM is not included in the plugin. So what if this thing doesn't work with the next releases of React? What if works only with specific React and React DOM versions together? With the React and React DOM, they're done a very good job. It's very, very backward compatible. It's even backward compatible to like 10-12 years ago when it came first. This is a great job they have done to keep that. But if you have the third thing, for example, React Router, it's not compatible with anything. Like each version is a rewrite basically. And then in a real plugin, you might have like 20-30 different packages. So that's an interesting thing to do. Styling needs to be kept out. One thing we have done in the project, which I have to mention, is we are not adding inline styles here, like to do whatsoever. We are not adding JSS or I don't know, Java in styling or styled component, nothing. If we are styling anything, we will create a separated CSS file, like separated thing, and we will export it as in with our plugin, like somehow like put this like my plugin.css, and if the host wants to, we'll include the styling. If they don't want to, they will just style it themselves. So we're not going to pollute the markup with tons of class names like, I don't know, header, B25, bold, some things like they do in Tailwind CSS. We're not touching anything. We give as much as lean possible markup, and then people who are using it, they will use based on their configuration, styling they want, like whatsoever is needed for them. Though you can negotiate a little bit of like CSS variables and those things, like some class names. Let's say we call this like medium, something like that, and just to some level, but do not pollute it. It's against the plugin system and code thing. Like when you are forcing me to something look like that, then I have to go and hack that my way or modify the source code to make the plugin look and feel a bit different. Um, what else? We discussed already keeping the markup very clean, perfect, and avoid as many as libraries we can. So in a plugin, if you can copy a project, you see there is a plugin which you want to use, and it's like 2 files or 3 files. Just copy that and put it inside your plugin. Do not go and make your plugin depending on other packages, and try to keep it a single file, lean file, and it's going to work for decades this way. If you're depending on the version and then all the time version mismatches and all those things, and especially you don't know with the semantic updates when is a security issue coming out, it's extra work, doesn't worth it. A lot of plugins are already very mature, you can just copy them, and a lot of big projects like they're doing it this way and avoiding a lot of hassle and headache. um thank you for being with me until here. It's already 20 minutes I see recording, and then we need to go move on to the front end host project now. In a while, I invite you to the chapter 3.